evening, everyone. This is the Thursday, January 19th, 2023 regular Village Board meeting. First item of business is me calling the meeting to order, which I'm doing, and then a roll call. Bill.
Trustee Hallwax.
Remotely here.
Trustee Listener.
Here.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Here.
Trustee Onderdunk.
Here.
Trustee Rubin.
Here.
Trustee Vree.
Here.
And President Rowan.
I'm here. Trustee Hallwax is traveling on business. He's on the phone, and under state law, he can vote. So he's going to do it on the phone. We're live streaming this meeting and have posted the links to the live stream on the Village's social media pages. We'll make the recording available on the Village's YouTube channel following the conclusion of tonight's meeting. First item of business is consideration of minutes. The minutes have been circulated to the board members. They've also been posted online for everyone. It's the minutes for the regular meeting on December 15th, 2022. Does anyone have anything they want to say about the minutes? And if there are no problems with it, is there a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second. Okay, there's a second. Good. Let's have a voice vote. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
The motion carries, and things are happening in the United Terminal.
He is in the airport.
Okay. The next item of business is public comment. This portion of the meeting allows for those in attendance to address the board regarding non-agenda items. I'll ask that public comments that relate to agenda items be made when we get to that point in the agenda. In any event, all comments are going to be from the audience are going to be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll notify the speaker when the time is up. Are there any comments on non-agenda items from the public? I don't see any. Thanks. So we're going to get to our regular meeting, and the first part of the regular meeting is the report of committees. The first committee is the Committee of the Whole, which we just had downstairs, and I'm going to report briefly on that. We talked about three things. First, we talked about a program for replacing lead service lines. There are 500 homes in Glencoe that have lead service lines. State law requires them to be replaced within the next 15 years, and we talked about the village's part in doing that. The next item we talked about was the community survey that we're going to be sending out, and the design of the community survey. And the last item was what to do about our farmers market, which has been a little less successful than we liked. That was what we talked about the Committee of the Whole. The next item is the report of the Finance Committee. Trustee Vree.
Thank you. We had our meeting on Tuesday and went through our normal review of the monthly finances. Generally speaking, the village is in very good shape, financially speaking. The result was good economic activity within the town. Sales tax was above expectation. State income tax was above expectation. Really, the only shortfall was property taxes. Bills went out late, as most of us know. And as a result, we haven't received the full amount that we expect. In looking into January, though, most of those have actually come in. And so ultimately, the village finances are in very good shape. We also went through our community investment program. Main thing to take away from that is that there's just sort of still a lot of uncertainty in when we can fulfill some of these programs or projects. And that just is continuing through 2023.
Thanks for that report. The next report is the Plan Commission. Trustee Listener.
Yes, well, the Plan Commission is continuing to work on the comprehensive plan, and over the past month, Village and Tesca staff and members of the Plan Commission have been meeting with various boards and commissions to talk to local stakeholders and kind of get them up to speed on what we're doing with the comprehensive plan, and also to get feedback on what issues are important to these groups. I know that the Tesca staff attended the Gulf Advisory meeting this month, and they're also planning on attending the Sustainability Task Force meeting on January 24th. Next week, on January 25th, the Plan Commission will be meeting to discuss a draft of what they're calling the big ideas for the comprehensive plan, things that we really want to focus on based upon discussions with different groups that have been involved with providing feedback to us. The draft document is on the village website in the Plan Commission agenda packet. Also, the Plan Commission does have, for the comprehensive plan, there is a website, which is www.allinGlencoe.org. It's still open, and the Plan Commission encourages everyone to kind of go to the website, post your ideas on the wall, and comment map to continue to get additional feedback.
Thanks for that report. The next report is the Golf Advisory Committee. Ordinarily, Trustee Hallwax, who's the village board representative on that committee, would report, but unless we want to hear from the folks at the airport, we're not going to be able to, we can't do that. So I'm going to ask our golf course guru, Stellianos, to report.
Thank you. We had our meeting on Monday night reviewing our year-end numbers. We had a very good year for the golf course. We had over 40,000 rounds. This is the third year in a row we've surpassed 40,000 rounds. Our unaudited net revenue is over $345,000, and that includes spending over $265,000 in capital improvements. And the majority of the meeting, as Gail said, was spent discussing the comprehensive plan with Pesca, and Greg Turner from the Plan Commission is also on the Golf Advisory Board, so there was a very lively conversation regarding the comprehensive plan. And that's everything we covered.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next report is the Sustainability Task Force. Trustee Mulvaney is the village board representative on that. Trustee Mulvaney.
Thank you. Yes, the Sustainability Task Force is always working hard to make Glencoe the most sustainable and desirable community in the galaxy. And recently our focus has been on public education. I hope that folks have noticed in the various outlets more articles from the task force around sustainability and things that are happening in town, in the region, and what you can do in your home to live a more sustainable life. Our task force is always open to volunteers. We're a fun group that gets things done. I encourage anybody here or there to attend and come and participate. It's a great way to involve yourself with the community, see something good, learn, and we would appreciate it. As trustee listeners said, we are collaborating with them in our next meeting, the 24th, 7:30 here in Village Hall, correct? 7:30. 7 o'clock on the 24th. That'd be another great way to engage in the community because you'll be getting exposure to two different committees and working together. So really strongly encourage folks to participate. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that report. The next report is the Council for Inclusion and Community. The village board representative on that is Trustee Rubin.
Thank you. The council met, and we really spent the meeting, a long meeting, talking principally about our January events. And the one I want to highlight is the one at the end of this month, the 31st at Writers Theater at 6:30 p.m. We'll have a panel presentation, and you may have started to see even the flyers in town about this. The importance of a welcoming and inclusive community from the perspective of two refugees. One, a recent Afghan refugee, and another, a former Soviet Union refugee from several decades ago, and their respective perspectives about this. I think it will be a fascinating discussion, and I encourage everybody to attend. It's It's free. You don't have to register in advance. Just show up. Again, January 31st at 6:30 at Writers Theater. We also spent time talking about other events. There was a service event at Am Shalom that was really the work of council, but really of St. Paul AME Church, North Shore United Methodist Church, Glencoe Union Church, and Am Shalom. They really did the work there in terms of having a day of service where our council was also involved. That went very well. We talked about the fact that I believe most, if not all of us from the council will be getting trained on mental health first aid by Family Service of Glencoe and another organization, and that we've all done a couple of hours of homework for that, and the training will be this Saturday. We were talking about some upcoming events and meeting with various and sundry organizations, and including one that we're working with the library to see about having a regular time of the week where some people from the council would be at the library so people could come in and just talk to us, if they chose it. They're otherwise at the library for other purposes, or maybe just because we're there and they wanted somebody to talk to on the council and they'd know we would be there. So we're working on those things and others, and it'll be another busy meeting the first Wednesday of February, and you're all welcome to join.
Thanks for that report. The next report is the Preservation Commission. Trustee Onderdonk is our representative
Thank you.
on that.
The Preservation Commission met on Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. The commission endorsed a memorandum concerning the goals and objectives for the Preservation Commission related to the comprehensive planning process, and it will be shared with the Plan Commission in the near future. The Commission also reviewed its list regarding other forms of preservation, including the current benefits of owning a certified or honorary landmark in the community and what incentives might be offered for preservation. Additionally, revisions to the submission requirements and exterior alterations were also considered, and these would be done prior to the issuance of any demolition permit or other permit. There also was some discussion for owners of honorary landmarks that they may be in the future be required to attend a meeting with the commission to discuss any alterations or demolitions. These will be refined at the next meeting. In addition, representatives of the Plan Commission, the Zoning Board, and the Preservation Commission will be meeting, I believe it's this Friday afternoon, to talk about the possibility of zoning flexibility for landmark properties. We reviewed the permit applications for 333 Surfside Place and 538 Green Bay Road. No further action should be taken on either property. In response to a proposal from the Evanston Bicycle Club, there was a concept of doing a bicycle tour map of historic properties in the village, and there's work on preparing that document. And I guess in the future, we'll be working on the future potential regulations and or incentives for historic preservation. The next meeting will be on February 13th. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that report. That concludes the reports of the committees. The next item on the agenda is the reports of officers, and the first one is the village manager's report. Mr. Corrali.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, everyone. I think we've arrived at the moment in the meeting that most of our attendees are here for, and it's always an exciting opportunity for us to formally swear in some new officers and to get to meet their families and hear a little bit about what's brought them here to Glencoe. I'd like to introduce Chief Lewandowski, who is going to introduce our 2 officers that will be swearing in this evening. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. Mr. President, members of the board, it's my pleasure to introduce and welcome a new public safety officer tonight, Ivan Zelik. He's joined by his mother, Stana, his father, Elia, his sister, Kate, and his girlfriend, Amina, tonight. Welcome and thank you for being here. In August, Ivan was hired from the Public Safety Commission's entry-level examination process for public safety officer. He then started the police academy and he graduated in December. He's now in his 5th week of our field training program and he's doing very well. Ivan attended DePaul University and earned a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in education and counseling. Prior to starting his employment with us, he was a high school counselor at Carmel High School and a club volleyball coach. His background and skills in crisis intervention and coaching and mentoring will serve him well as a public safety officer. During the hiring process, I was impressed with Ivan's communication skills, his maturity, and his desire to excel and succeed. So far, Ivan has been an excellent addition to the team, and we expect him to develop into a productive and compassionate officer very soon. Ivan, congratulations and welcome to Glencoe. I appreciate you for your hard work in the police academy and for starting a new career with us. I'm confident you'll make great progress as you build your skills to include fire and emergency medical services. Congratulations. Mr. Crowley, will submit the oath.
If you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Ivan Zelik,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the Village of Glencoe,
and the ordinances of the Village of Glencoe,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the position of Public Safety Officer
the duties of the position of Public Safety Officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All three. I'd also like to introduce another new public safety officer tonight, Michael Vargas. Tonight he's joined by his wife Kristen, his children Addison and Madison, his mother Debbie, and his in-laws Kent and Kathy. Again, thank you for being here to support Michael in this event. In December, Mike was hired from our lateral entry process for public safety officer. The goal of that process is to recruit and hire experienced police officers to reduce the turnaround time and get qualified officers on the street faster. In fact, he was referred to us by Officer John Marino, who came to us as an officer with previous experience as well. Mike came to us very well prepared for this job. He's a certified law enforcement officer with 7 years' experience with the Elmhurst and Palatine Police Departments. He has a bachelor's degree in exercise science, and he's also taken fire science courses and EMT courses in college. His training and experience allowed us to use an abbreviated field training program, and he was released to solo patrol earlier this week. I'm confident he will prove to be an excellent addition to the team and a fine representative of the department. Mike, congratulations and welcome to Glencoe. I appreciate you for starting a new chapter of your career with us, where you'll continue to grow as a public safety professional, adding fire and emergency medical services to your extensive skill set. Congratulations. Arcadia.
You raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Michael Vargas. Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the Village of Glencoe,
the ordinances of the Village of Glencoe,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the position of Public Safety Officer
the duties of the position of Public Safety Officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. So before everyone rushes out, because I know you really want to stay for the rest of the business meeting this evening,
I want 15 seconds.
I will let President Rowan speak then. Go for it. No, go ahead.
I just want to say, in the village of Glencoe, we are very proud of our public safety department. Trustee Mulvaney says, the most sustainable village in the universe. I'm not positive, but we have the best public safety department. We are very proud of that. We have very high standards to get hired here, and we are very grateful to our public safety officers. And we feel lucky to get the new public safety officers we've just gotten who satisfy and exceed those standards. So I just want to tell you how grateful and thankful we are for what you do.
I couldn't say it any better myself. The only thing I will add is something that I try to say as frequently as we can, and that is that being a part of this team is a great, great opportunity, and I say that as a member of the team. I am deeply proud of the work that your department does every day and the work that you undertake on behalf of our community, on behalf of the residents who live here and the people who visit here. The quality of the candidates and listening to your biographies and what you've done to get here is wonderful. And we look forward to availing ourselves of your many skills and abilities over a long, hopefully long career with us here in Glencoe. Thank you for coming to this community and for being a part of this team, and to your families, thank you for lending them to us as long as they'll possibly stay here. We are thrilled that they're here and grateful to you for the sacrifices that you make to make them available to us as well. And because I see him standing in the back of the room, and I might not be able to say this in front of him again, while we swear in a few folks this evening who are starting a career with us, we also, in a couple weeks, will say goodbye to another august member of this department, and that's Lieutenant Pete Neville. Pete is nearing a 28-year career with the village of Glencoe. He's been a lieutenant since 2016. He is one of the finest that we've had ever, and I think leaves a wonderful legacy in his wake as he moves on to the next chapter in his career. And I just wanted to say thanks to you, Pete, for what you've done for our community, for the organization, for those who you have trained, and for those who have looked up to you as a leader in the department. And we'll miss you very much. But to see all of you here is always a great opportunity to say thank you, and thank you to each of you for what you do. You don't have to stay.
You don't have to
Totally
stay.
can. You
And I
totally
hope-
can.
And I hope you appreciate how fast we got through the stuff before here.
Ah. Did he fall asleep? So I've got just a couple of other items on my report this evening that I wanted to make mention of. One of them relates to some outages that ComEd customers experienced this past weekend and early this week. So the village is aware of and has been working with ComEd regarding those outages that particularly impacted western portions of Glencoe this past weekend. ComEd did work hard to restore power quickly, but no doubt a number of residents shared their concerns that these outages were indicative of a new service problem. When we made contact with ComEd and remained in contact with them throughout the holiday weekend, they shared that the outages were related to permanent system resiliency upgrades that will improve reliability and are actively underway. Unfortunately, work on that permanent upgrade included some issues with some of the temporary equipment that was on site, and so that was what what resulted in those outages. There were outages reported each day, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. They were relatively brief, but still impacted many of the same customers. Work on those permanent system upgrades is going to continue for a few more weeks, but ComEd has assured us that it has put measures in place to minimize or eliminate any further disruptions as part of this work. I would encourage that if people have questions or they want to report any outages, we always remind them, don't call Village Hall first, contact ComEd first at 1-800-EDISON-1. You can also report an outage on their app that many of us have downloaded on our cell phones or by going to their website. We're going to put this information out tomorrow on social media as well as in our e-news blast, but I wanted to share it because I know at least a few members of the village board were impacted by those outages last weekend, and many other, about 500 customers, 2 or 3 times were impacted by them. So our understanding is that they have resolved the problem and the work has continued, and we haven't had any outages since Monday. So knock on wood, that remains the case. Lastly, this evening, I've mentioned this briefly in some of the communications I've sent to the board, and we've pushed out some information on our social media platforms, but the village, our Tudor Court Streetscape Improvement project that was completed back in 2020 has received an award. We were notified that that it has been selected as the Public Works Project of the Year in the Transportation category of less than $5 million by the Suburban Branch of the American Public Works Association. This is a significant honor and one that is difficult to get. It's quite competitive. The project was a collaborative effort between design engineer Hampton, Lenzini, and Renwick, as well as landscape architect Tesca Associates, that worked very closely with our village staff, and in particular very closely with Public Works Director Dave Mao, as well as village engineer James Teague. The integration of improved pedestrian safety, additional seating and gathering spaces, enhanced green spaces, all while introducing both standard and enhanced streetscape features, all contributed to the impact of this small but mighty project. That started as an idea as part of the downtown planning process as a means of making Tudor Court a special place. And clearly, at least the American Public Works Association believes that it is, and I know many of our residents do as well. So congratulations to everyone who was a part of that, especially our staff team, Dave and James. There is going to be formal recognition coming in the coming week, and we'll share some more information on this project. Other than that, I have no further items on my report this evening.
Bravo on the award. That's just great, and thanks to our staff for what they've done. The next item on the agenda is the village president's report. The first thing, and I'll be brief, is about assault weapons. After the tragedy in Highland Park, a number of municipalities, but that includes Glencoe, we recognized that there was nothing that we could do. We're limited by state law, we're limited by our status as a non-home rule community, but the one thing we could do was urge our representatives in the state legislature and at the federal level to try to do something about assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, and we passed a resolution encouraged by our residents urging the state to ban assault weapons and ban high-capacity magazines and to do these things. Everyone that reads the news knows that the state of Illinois, the legislature, the House, the Senate, and then the governor. They passed it, they signed it, and we now have a law. And I just want to say, in behalf of the village of Glencoe, that we are grateful to our state reps. That's Representative Gable, Representative Carroll, and Representative Morgan, who was one of the principal sponsors of the bill, and to our state senators, Senator Morrison and Senator Fine, for what they've done for us. We were looking for their help. They delivered, and we're grateful. And as a realist, I recognize that there's another branch of government that may ultimately have something else to say about this statute. But the village has done what it can, and our elected representatives have done what they can, and so we are grateful for that. The next item on the agenda is a couple of appointments to the Preservation Commission. First, I would like to appoint and I look for the village board to approve the appointment of Brad Levison to the Preservation Commission.
Sustainability. Sorry, that was a misprint on my part.
I'm sorry.
Sustainability Task Force.
Sustainability, okay. Brad Levison, Sustainability. Is there a motion to approve his appointment to Sustainability? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries, and he's approved. The next appointment is to the Preservation Commission. Jessica Mavrogenis, and another excellent candidate. Is there a motion to approve the appointment to the... Is there a second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries, so they're both appointed. The next item on my report is a consideration of a proclamation declaring February 2023 as Black History Month in the village of Glencoe. Proclamation has been circulated to the board. It's been put out on the internet with our agenda. Is there a motion to approve the proclamation? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Okay, that concludes the President's report. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is items, they've been published online for the community to review. They've been reviewed by the board members in their packets. We don't think they require any additional public discussion, and so normally we vote for the consent agenda as one item. I would note one thing. One of the items on the consent agenda, it doesn't particularly require lengthy discussion, but it is a large chunk of change. It's consideration of a resolution authorizing a contract with the sewer contractor to do the 2023 water main replacement. It's an item of a little more than $1.2 million, and I would just like Village Manager Crowley to give us a short explanation of this, since it's real money.
Certainly, no problem. Real quickly, this is the water main replacement program for calendar year 2023. These resources were included in the budget that was approved last month. This bid was conducted last summer, and this was intended to be completed. These water main replacements were intended to be completed last year. The overall project included also the transmission main that we are finishing up across the Skokie Lagoons. And given the fact that the bids came back higher than anticipated at the time, the staff's recommendation was that we delay the awarding of work for these water mains until 2023. I will say these numbers, we believe, based on staff's evaluation, remain good from the standpoint of the the process that we undertook, as well as the market conditions that we continue to exist within. And the recommendation does include that we move forward with awarding to Morrow. We have worked with Morrow for a number of years. They are in the process right now of completing our transmission main work that I had mentioned just a moment ago. And certainly happy to answer any questions if anyone has them, but that's a quick summary of this project.
That's great. So, we've published the list of consent agenda items. Unless there's further discussion, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Is there a second? I think we need a roll call on this. Correct.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listner.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Onderdunk. Trustee Rubin. Trustee Vree.
Yes.
The motion carries. That concludes the consent agenda. The next item of business, regular business, there's one item, consideration of a proposed zoning code amendment to allow permanent outdoor dining and associated structures as a special use in the B1 and B2 zoning districts. And I'll ask our Development Services Manager, Taylor Baxter, to present on this. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you, President Rowan, members of the board. We are, here we go, it's going the wrong way. We're back again to discuss this proposed zoning code amendment. This is the second and potentially final time this will come before you. We did talk about this a couple months ago before it was referred to the zoning commission. Just as a refresher, quickly the background on this, staff has received several inquiries over the last few years about permanent outdoor dining on private property. It seems to be sustained interest that could potentially outlast the COVID pandemic. However, right now our regulatory structure does not really handle the review and accommodation of permanent outdoor dining on private property very well. Also, just as some background, this is mentioned in the staff memo a bit. Our current 2016 plan for downtown encourages the village to support restaurant uses in its business districts. However, right now our zoning code doesn't necessarily do so. The code amendment process, again, this is the third and final step. This came before you in December. It was then referred to the Zoning Commission for a public hearing and a recommendation. The Zoning Commission held a public hearing earlier this month, and as we'll talk about in a moment, unanimously recommended approval of this amendment as proposed. We're now back to the village board, and your role is to give this final consideration and make a final decision on the proposed ordinance. Again, the current regulations in our business districts, all business operations must be within a fully enclosed building, except for approved temporary uses. Here's temporary uses only. Temporary uses that are allowable in our zoning code include outdoor cafes. That's a term that's used in the zoning code that really refers to any outdoor dining. There are several restrictions involved with this. First of all, it's an annual permit. It is issued through the village manager's office. It is only allowable between April 1st and November 30th. So restaurants have to come back every year for re-review and reissue of the permit. Again, the temporary uses may not involve the construction or alteration of any permanent structure. So outdoor dining may not involve pergolas, shade structures, permanent seating, etc. They're prohibited by our code. The proposed amendment would allow outdoor cafes or outdoor dining only with the approval of a special use permit in the B1, which is downtown, and B2 Hubbard Woods district. Special use permit is a two-step process. It involves a public hearing with the zoning commission, who makes a recommendation, and then the village board makes a final decision. And the criteria that are looked at with the special use permit are really focused on whether the use is appropriate in a specific location. It's really a case-by-case review. Is the use appropriate in this specific location? Are there negative impacts on surrounding properties? It's also an opportunity to put conditions of approval on uses if needed to mitigate those potential negative impacts. Some points of clarification, a few questions that have come up. Private versus public property. This proposed amendment is really intended to apply to outdoor dining on private property only. It's not really intended to apply to structures and uses in the public right-of-way. Our zoning code is really intended to manage uses and structures on parcels, not so much in the right-of-way. I mentioned that because there are questions about, for example, the Guildhall greenhouses. The intent of this ordinance those would not fall under this SUP process. That would continue to be handled through a license agreement through the village board for that process that we have set up. Another distinction that's important to make is temporary versus permanent dining. This proposed amendment would not apply to temporary outdoor dining or temporary structures. So the current administrative outdoor cafe system, that would remain in place for temporary outdoor uses. If you're a restaurant, you just want to put tables and chairs up on the sidewalk between April and November, you don't have to go through this SUP process. It doesn't change. If you want to put up permanent structures or you want to do year-round dining, you do have to go through this SUP process under this ordinance. A few considerations that were talked about in the staff memo also with the zoning commission and by the public through some public comments we received. Outdoor dining does have potential negative impacts, most specifically sound and light. And the SUP process would allow the village to maintain some control over that through the public hearing process, applying conditions of approval or outright denial of applications if determined to be inappropriate in a particular location. This would allow the construction of permanent structures such as pergolas, etc., shade structures. We've seen in the past that potential outdoor dining on private property, there were some requests for possibly some structures that would help with light and sound. If those were permanent structures, they would not have been allowed. Through this process, those would be allowed with the approval of this special use permit. This would also provide some more certainty to restaurateurs as opposed to going back through the process every year. If you want to make an investment in a property, it would likely be preferable to have the certainty of a special use permit. If you're meeting your conditions, you can continue to operate. Again, it would not affect the current temporary outdoor dining process. Finally, any permanent structures or changes that require a building permit would also need exterior appearance review for the Plan Commission. So there'd be another layer of review on top of just the SUP. That would just be if there are permanent structures involved. The Zoning Commission did hold a public hearing earlier this month and unanimously recommended approval as proposed. They discussed a few possible paths here, a conditional use instead of a special use. A conditional use would be instead of going through the public hearing process and having the village board approve the use in that location, it would be the zoning code would list certain criteria you would have to meet, then you'd get an administrative approval. There was some discussion of the distinction between those two. The zoning commission decided to recommend the more conservative route, which is the SUP process, because that gives the zoning commission and the village board final say over whether to approve or deny a permit. So that was what was proposed and that was what was recommended. We'll talk about the public comment in just a moment. They considered adding some language for sound and light requirements, but in the end they decided that instead of putting that language into this particular code amendment, it was likely better handled elsewhere, whether as an application requirement for this SUP or through revisiting potentially some aspects of our nuisance, noise, and light requirements. There was no concerns about the ongoing comprehensive plan process. There was some discussion about the timing of this. We're in the middle of the comprehensive plan process. That process will include a look at the downtown plan. Staff's opinion is it's unlikely that the new comprehensive plan is going to significantly change our current plan's encouragement of restaurants and business districts, and the zoning commission agreed, and they did not have any concerns about this amendment taking place before the comprehensive plan process is finished. Public comment, we did get one public comment asking that light and sound studies be required as part of this process. Again, the zoning commission agreed that that was a reasonable concern, but they did not feel that that language should be part of this amendment and placed directly into the zoning code as a requirement only for outdoor dining. We've had some internal discussion. Concerns about light and sound are legitimate. They may be better handled via through taking a closer look at our existing light, sound, and nuisance requirements, so that those could apply to all uses downtown. If we placed it in this particular ordinance, it would most likely just apply to outdoor dining, whereas there might be other uses that have light, sound concerns. For example, indoor dining with the lights open. So it may be better handled in other places in the zoning code, or as an administrative requirement with an SUP application. We did get public comments in support of this amendment from the Chamber of Commerce, and another written comment from a downtown Glencoe resident that's in your agenda packet. So the village board's role tonight: motion to approve or deny the ordinance with any changes is determined to be appropriate, and then also, if you'd like, to provide some direction to staff regarding sound, light, or other nuisance mitigation if you feel that that needs to be addressed. With that, I'll turn it back over to President Rowland.
Thanks for the clear presentation. There isn't really, it seems to me, there isn't much risk to the village in saying, we're willing to consider this, but you have to get a special use permit. Because, you know, I don't want to overstate this, but essentially we can do whatever we want with a special use permit. It's a legislative decision with each one of these. You obviously have to be, you know, meet the test for legislation. There has to be a hearing. But
And if I may, if you impose a condition, it has to be reasonably related to the use that's being requested.
so, which is
Reasonable, which is how Glencoe always acts.
So it seems to me, if it turns, so even though we're not doing light and sound as part of the ordinance, if someone persuaded the zoning board and the village board that this particular use required such a requirement, could do it as part of the special use, or we could do it separately in a more general ordinance. So, to me, this seems like a good idea. It may help us, help our restaurateurs, and it enables all of our citizens with all of their interests to get their say. So I think it's a good idea. I'm not surprised the zoning board recommended it, and I'm for it. Any comments from other board members on this? And if not, is there, it's been circulated, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Underdog. Trustee Rubin. Trustee Vree.
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody for their hard work on this. It's been a number of months, and the business district continues to be a challenge. Okay, the next item of business is other business. Does anyone have any other business they want to raise? I don't see any. Okay. The next item is a closed session. I'm going to ask for a motion to move into closed session pursuant to 2C5 concerning the purchase or lease of property. Purchase or lease.
Or sale.
Or sale, I'm sorry. Okay. Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney. Trustee Underdog. Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, we're going to move downstairs and